Good afternoon and welcome to this edition of Border Report Live. My name is Rudy Mireles and I'm your host here in Harlingen, Texas in the Rio Grande Valley of deep South Texas. A little later in the program, our El Paso correspondent Lujan Grisham will be joining us to talk about a few different topics, including the downturn in the amount of money being sent to Mexico from the United States and some new reporting on drug cartel camps dismantled by Mexican authorities and the shocking discovery that was made while dismantling those camps. But first, as always, let's go ahead and take a look at what's trending across the border, starting with a new poll that shows Americans believe immigration and customs enforcement has gone too far. Now, this is according to the latest NPR PBS Marist poll. When asked, how would you describe the actions of ICE in enforcing immigration laws, 65% said they had gone too far, 22% said they were about right, and 12% actually said they had not gone far enough. By party affiliation, 93% of Democrats think the actions have gone too far, and 71% of independents believe the same. 27% of Republicans agree, up from 20%. The poll was conducted last week and has a margin of error of nearly 3 percentage points. An anti-ICE school protest landed a Nebraska student in the hospital. It all happened last week in Fremont, Nebraska, during a non-school-sponsored student-led walkout. School officials say some of the students entered the street, and that is when one of them was hit by a red SUV displaying a Trump flag. The driver then sped away. The injured student was taken to the hospital. New reports say the driver and the student who was hit were among 6 people that ended up getting tickets from the police. As we've told you this week, Homeland Security is buying up warehouses across the country to convert into ICE detention centers. Residents near Dallas and San Antonio are opposed to plans by ICE to convert massive warehouses into detention facilities. LULAC announced its opposition for plans to open a facility in Hutchins, Texas. That's about 30 minutes south of Dallas. The LULAC national president said turning a community into a holding pen for desperate people fleeing violence and persecution is not only inhumane, but also un-American. Reports indicate the center could house up to nearly 10,000 migrants, a number larger than the population of the city of Hutchins. Similar opposition is happening in San Antonio, Texas, where ICE this week purchased a 640,000 square foot industrial complex that will become a processing center and hold 1,500 immigrants. According to the Bexar County Appraisal District, the property is worth $37 million, but no one is saying how much DHS actually paid for the complex. In a statement, DHS said it should not come as news that ICE will be making arrests in states across the U.S., and is actively working to expand detention space. And that same exact thing is happening in New Mexico as well. Want to bring in our El Paso correspondent Lujan Grisham to tell us about the latest there. Lujan?
Rudy, good afternoon. Yeah, we do have breaking news out of New Mexico. The governor of New Mexico, Lujan Grisham, this morning in a ceremony signed what they call the Immigrant Safety Act. Basically, it's a state effort, a state mandate, so that no local government, be it county or the state itself, engage in any deal with the federal government to house migrants who have not been arrested for a violent, serious crime. What this means is that contracts with ICE to run the three migrant detention centers in New Mexico will not be renewed when expired. And the act itself, the bill, calls for the prompt termination of any existing agreements. That is likely to affect upwards of up to 2,000 migrants who can be housed at these 3 facilities. One is right next to us in Otero County, which is right across the state line from El Paso, Texas. The others are in Torrance, deeper into New Mexico, and in Cibola as well. There was immediate reaction from the activist community hailing the move by the state legislature of New Mexico and the governor of New Mexico to sign this bill into law. There's also some concerns, some questions that are being raised as to where exactly those up to 2,000 migrants being held in New Mexico will be moved to. The most logical place to do so would be El Paso because, like I mentioned, one of the detention centers is right a few miles across the state line. In view of that, already we had efforts by practically every major local elected official to express to ICE their intent to not bring any more migrants into El Paso. And the congresswoman, the local congresswoman, Veronica Escobar, just wrote to the federal government telling them, I am concerned because you want to build more detention centers here in El Paso. And now I'm sure that she's going to be asking questions regarding the closure of these centers in New Mexico and where those migrants are going to be sent to.
Yeah, and that's not in that detention center there in El Paso. It's still kind of in the between process between being a tent facility and being a fortified facility there at Fort Bliss. And we know some of the issues they've already had, including that recent death that happened there. I believe it was a couple weeks ago we first heard about it, but the death of someone, migrant who was in detention, DHS saying he had some kind of medical event, and then later on, it's more reporting finding out that he was being held down, allegedly under extreme conditions by guards while waiting in line for some sort of medication as well. So I'm sure that's among some of the concerns that the Congresswoman has there.
Right, and New Mexico had similar concerns. Here in El Paso, at that detention center at the Campus Montana, we've had 3 fatalities in about 2 months. In New Mexico, although it's taken a longer period of time, there have also been documented instances of migrants dying in custody, or migrants who were in custody and then taken to hospitals died. And that is one reason why the governor of New Mexico said today that she's happy to sign the bill. It means accountability. It means the state not being involved in any allegations of mistreatment, of lack of care. And there have been some such allegations at the facilities in New Mexico. So as of now on, the state of New Mexico is divorcing itself from those detention facilities. And also, the bill includes a provision so that local authorities do not join the 287G program. Mm-hmm. That's a federal program, a federal partnership that trains and empowers local police officers to assist immigration agencies in their work. New Mexico says we're bailing out of this as well.
So just to be clear, are there already law enforcement agencies within New Mexico that are part of that 287G program? Because I know a lot of smaller municipalities, some of the smaller counties with smaller populations, they kind of rely on some of the funding that comes with being a part of that program.
Yeah, that's correct about the funding. For instance, some of the early reporting shows that just in one of those detention centers alone, the local authority is going to stop receiving about $2.4 million a month. That is the cost. That is the money that the federal government gives the local government for the cost of housing those migrants, and the local government in turn passes it in New Mexico to a private agency called Core Civic that basically runs those 3 centers. As far as I know, I think in the past that was true. I am not sure whether currently any local law enforcement is still participating in that program that you mentioned.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Julian. We're going to keep you around, though, for the next segment. And when we come back, we're going to be talking to Julian about the downturn in money being sent to Mexico from the United States, something called remittances. And we'll also have new reporting that he has on the dismantling of cartel camps on the other side of the Rio Grande. One of them with some pretty disturbing discoveries. So stay with us. Border Report Live is back in 2 minutes. And welcome back to this edition of Border Report Live. My name is Rudy Medelis, your host here in Harlingen, Texas. Mexican authorities say they have found and dismantled 3 drug cartel camps in the border state of Chihuahua just in the last week. One was on a hill overlooking the main highway to Ojinaga, which is across the border from Presidio, Texas. The camp was being used by a dozen people and even had a fortified observation area. A police helicopter crew flying over a highway late last month looking for cartel activity found that camp and notified Chihuahua State Police. Earlier this month, another helicopter crew found a camp in the brush south of Chihuahua City. Police officers and the Mexican National Guard troops went into the hills and they found an abandoned all-terrain vehicle, several marijuana plants, and even a makeshift shrine. And here with us again today, Julian Resendiz. Before we get into our economics discussion in just a bit, I wanted to bring you in to talk about those camps and specifically what was in that shrine that Mexican authorities found.
Yes, Rudy. As we have reported before, the drug seizures of fentanyl particularly are down at the U.S.-Mexico border. And also the migrant flow, which in past years has been primarily attributed to the control of the drug cartels, also has gone down. However, that does not mean that cartel activity has disappeared. Quite the contrary, they're always looking for alternate sources of income. And evidence of that current activity is that throughout the state of Chihuahua, which is south of Texas and New Mexico as well, there have been several shootings. There have been several instances of drones, cartel drones being detected, including at least one documented drone cartel explosive attack on law enforcement. So police officers and the Mexican Army were out on patrol throughout the state this past weekend, and they found, like you said, a camp right across the border, Ojinaga, which is right next to Presidio, where the cartel had this parapet from which they observed comings and goings into the town through the main highway. Also, in the central part of the state, that is where they found they made this shocking discovery. They went into another camp, assisted with drone surveillance themselves, and they found marijuana plants. They found an all-terrain vehicle used by cartel members to move quickly to other areas. And then they found this, what you see on your screen right now. It is a makeshift altar to La Santa Muerte, or Holy Death. That is an icon that is revered by drug traffickers and other criminals. The way it works is basically they pray to Holy Dead not to come and take him, but they also pray for all kinds of other favors, like any other saint, such as healing and such as good fortune with their enterprises. So obviously, the authorities were made aware of this discovery, and like you see in the images, they promptly dispose of the drugs and all the other paraphernalia that they found.
And when we start talking about Santa Muerte, I know at least for those of us in South Texas, and you worked here in South Texas, in Brownsville, down at the very tip, bottom southern tip of the state of Texas, bordering Matamoros. I think the first thing that kind of comes to our minds here is the 1989 kidnapping and murder of Mark Kilroy in Matamoros. He was a UT Austin student who was here on spring break visiting South Padre Island and was picked up by a cult leader and trafficker, Adolfo Costanzo, and as we later discovered, was one of among what at least 14 victims. Costanzo, a Cuban-American who was considered himself a narco-Satanist. That's kind of where my mind goes to this. He believed that the more people he killed, the more protection he had while being a drug trafficker for him and his I guess you could call it, a cartel, but at the end of the day, it was more like a cult in this situation. He subscribed to the religion called Palo Mayombe, which involved a lot of animal sacrifice, and as we just said, later turned into human sacrifice for them. But is that something that's becoming more common, or is this more of a rarity among the cartel community, this idolatry of the Santa Muerte, or the Saint Death?
Really, in recent years, the cult to the La Santa Muerte has kind of proliferated. It has toned down a little bit to the point, and you may find this shocking, to the point that I've been told by experts that even police officers, some police officers, are known to, if not worship, at least ask the favors of La Santa Muerte. So it has kind of permeated through popular culture. However, let me tell you something. Like you mentioned of the Kilroy killing, we have had instances here in which some traffickers who had some of the shrines to the Holy Dead, to the devil as well, they have been linked to very gruesome killings, not just your standard drive-by shooting or let's pick up this guy because he robbed from us and kill him. No, last year we fielded a case in which a woman, gang leader, was accused of dismembering people, dismembering rivals. And when authorities went to do the investigation, effect search warrants, they found evidence that she was a worshiper of Santa Muerte. So yeah, to answer your question, on the one hand, the icon itself has become prolific, become part of popular culture. But yeah, police always raise red flags when they associate a particular trafficker with this worshiping because of the things that they pledge to do in exchange for the favors.
All right. Well, thank you so much for your reporting on that. Now, moving on and switching gears a little bit here into economics. We've learned that remittances to Mexico fell by almost $3 billion last year. And for those of you at home that don't know what a remittance is, it's essentially someone, a migrant or an immigrant, or maybe it's a citizen that has family in another country, sending money back home to their family from their work here in the United States. Tell us a little bit about what you found, Julian.
Yes, Rudy. And I would say that it's mostly something practiced by immigrants, people who have been in the United States for a long time, but still keep very strong family ties. They send money every month in some cases. The amounts vary, but on the average is between close to $300 per remittance. What we told you guys a few months back is that we were noticing that the amount of remittances was dropping. The remittances from U.S. to Mexico was dropping. And we spoke to one expert who, at the time, who told us it's going to go down 5%, and that's about $3 billion. And that's exactly what happened at the end of the year. The Bank of Mexico this week barely released the figures for the entire calendar year 2025, and it shows that the remittances fell from 64.7 billion to just under 62 billion. That's a big hit, not just to the families who received this assistance from the relatives in the U.S., but also to the Mexican economy. Remittances, that 64, 63, $62 billion figure, it accounts for about 3.4% of the Mexican gross domestic product. So when those remittances stalled, it reverberates across the entire Mexican economy. Now, when we talk about the reasons, what we learned last year was, well, it has to do with immigration. It has to do with migrants and immigrants being afraid of going out and sending money. We have heard from experts this week, and yeah, immigration plays a big part. But when you go into the nuances, it's not that simple. It's not that immigrants are afraid to go to Western Union, Walmart, etc. It's a deeper pattern. What happened is that in the past few years, not just last year, but in the past few years, more nationals from other countries other than Mexico enter the United States. The number of Mexicans enter the United States was kind of steady. And now, in the past year, we've heard about deportations, we've heard about self-deportations. We have some credible numbers from the government of Mexico that about 146,000 Mexicans were deported from the United States in the last year. So that means a lot of, tens of thousands of people are no longer in the United States sending money to their families. It also means that the remittances may not be growing for some time because they were growing because of the influx of people. So if less people are coming in, we're not just talking about what happened last year. We're talking about a trend that's likely to hold at least for the next year, if not more. And there's another phenomenon that we're reporting, and that is that those that are sending money home are finding that their money buys their relatives has a lesser value because the peso in the past year has appreciated substantially. I don't know if you recall, but at the start of 2025, you were able to go across the border and turn one of your dollars into 20 pesos. If you go today, that same dollar only buys you about 17 and 17 pesos pretty much. So that also is having an impact. So all around bad news, all around bad prospects, and it has to do with immigration, but it also has to do with macroeconomic trends.
Yeah, and not to mention the U.S. labor market grew at its slowest pace since the beginning of the pandemic, since 2020. And we actually have heard Fed Chair Jerome Powell talk about this at previous Federal Open Market Committee meetings when deciding whether or not they're going to cut the federal interest rate. He's actually mentioned that immigration has played a role in some of the slow pace when it comes to job creation. Those jobs just no longer really in existence anymore once those people are getting picked up by ICE and other enforcement removal operations.
Yeah, that is exactly correct. However, there are some nuances And I invite the public to follow Border Report because we take a deep dive
Hmm.
whenever we see stories that everybody's reporting. We try to get to the bottom of things. And let me give you a shocking statistic and why we should go back to Mexico. Yeah, the U.S. labor market is not growing that much, but remittances are actually growing a lot
Hmm.
from the United States to countries other than Mexico. They grew uh, double. They had double-digit growth when it comes to some countries in Central America, the Caribbean, and South America. So how do we explain this? Again, we go to those macro socioeconomic factors. A lot, like I said before, a lot more third country migrants came into the U.S. Some those that have not been deported. This mass quantity of migrants into the millions have found jobs and are sending money home. What's been happening with Mexico? Most of those migrants that enter the U.S. from third countries were seeking political asylum. And political asylum of Mexicans, as we have reported before, is more difficult. It's more difficult. The bar is higher. We've been told by immigration attorneys here in El Paso, has always been a lot higher. It has to do with politics. It has to do with judges evaluating, well, is Mexico an unsafe country, our neighbors, with whom we have this enormous daily trade, or not? So that is also a factor why this is a Mexican phenomenon for now.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Julian. Lots of things covered today, as always, when you're joining us on the program. So we appreciate your time today.
Thank you.
All righty. Well, stay with us. Got a few more headlines when we come back. Border Report Live is back in 2 minutes. Welcome back to this edition of Border Report Live. He saw a need and he helped. We're talking about Samuel Schultz. He's the basis of a new documentary telling the story about how he led volunteers to feed thousands of migrants near Jacumba, California. Our Salvador Rivera sat down to talk to Schultz on why he decided to help so many.
That's what I'm saying. Anything could happen.
Samuel Schultz is the basis of a documentary produced by Nomo Films. It's called Sam. It documents how Schultz organized efforts to feed and provide water to thousands of asylum seekers who were streaming into the U.S. near Jacumba, California in 2023 and for most of 2024.
One of the major breaks in the wall where people were passing through at that time is really very close to my house, less than a mile away. So as soon as we saw people crossing there in the desert with no water, then it was an automatic reaction, of course, to bring water to people. That's just what you do. I can document that I made over 82,000 peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. I have a background in developmental relief logistics in Southeast Asia, and I spent decades doing that sort of thing. So I'm used to transient populations and things like that. From the very beginning, I was going, where's the Red Cross? Where's the National Guard? Where are the people that are actually equipped, logistically equipped, to be able to deal with this situation? And they never came.
We first met Schultz back in October of 2023. Back then, on a daily basis, there were hundreds of migrants crossing the border and then waiting for Border Patrol agents to pick them up at this spot and others nearby.
Did they feel overwhelmed? Yeah, we felt very overwhelmed. Not just me, but all the volunteers and people who were out here. Because there was nobody, it was just us. That was it.
Things are a lot different now. The rush of migrants has stopped. There are still shoes and socks scattered around, evidence there were people living here at one point. But things have definitely changed here in Jacumba in many ways. The gap in the fence used by migrants to enter the U.S. is being sealed off, sort of an end to an era.
All that hope that was stored up with all of those people is being eradicated in various ways.
The memory of Schultz's work will carry on in Sam, the documentary, something he is very humble about.
Anything like that is a little vignette shot in a couple hours in one little slice of life.
From Jacumba, California, Salvador Rivera, Border Report.
Ever wanted to catch up on a border report but don't have time to sit down and watch? Well, you can always stay informed on the stories shaping the U.S.-Mexico border as we bring you real-time updates, expert insights, and voices from both sides of the border in podcast form. You can catch us right there at the places on the bottom of your screen, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Spotify, and on YouTube. That is going to do it for us today. For Julian Resendiz in El Paso, I'm Rudy Mireles in Harlingen, Texas. We'll see you next time.